You are about to witness history. This is Madaz Money. What's up, guys? We're going to talk about LFIN today, the biggest, craziest, wildest, wackiest, most insane stock I've seen in a very long time. If you thought Dries was nutty when it ran to 120, forget about that. Forget about Dries. LFIN, LFIN, this stock was pretty much all of Dries' days. I mean, Dries did run for like a couple days, right? This is pretty much all of Dries' days put together all in one day. So this has got to be the craziest thing I've ever seen. I know I keep saying that every time I see a stock run, but this is pretty crazy. I mean, this thing ran from 5 on Friday. It was a recent IPO. This stock's only been in existence for like a couple days, guys. So this is like just the most insane thing ever. This is the craziest IPO I've seen since I first started trading. 5 all the way up to 140. I mean, this is insane. Almost 150 there. Words can't explain how epic this stock was. It's just, I mean, sometimes I'm at a loss of words that this actually just happened today. But unless you were living in a cave, there's no need for any introduction for this stock. It's just bizarre. It's generational stuff. I mean, this is obviously a byproduct of the whole Bitcoin craze. And this might be our .com of our generation, guys. If you're not trading this and you're not making bank every single day, if you're not, taking advantage of this fully, I mean, you never know when the next .com, the next Bitcoin craze, the next whatever is going to come. I do really implore that you guys all hop on your trading platforms and start trading these things, these cryptocurrency related stocks, or trade cryptocurrencies yourself. This is definitely a once in a generation type opportunity. So, gotta take advantage of this, guys. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight to the footage. So in this video, we're going to talk about 2 Halt Resume Washout long trades. And we're just going to illustrate, again, how effective this strategy is. LFIN now is halted. We're looking at this thing pretty much resuming very, very shortly. And you're going to see it gap down very, very nicely and perfectly to that support level that I have drawn right there. And again, it's very, very crucial that you have supports and resistance drawn. And very, very critical that you stick to these, because these things can skip on air. When the stock kind of runs past the $20, $30, $40, $50 range and stuff like that, you're going to get some crazy, crazy action where, if you try to cheat your entry by a couple of dollars, you might end up being early by $5, $6, $7. So that might be a bad, really, really bad situation, especially if you're pushing size. So in this particular case, I'm just waiting for this thing to halt, resume, wash out, gap down, whatever. Give you a nice entry, close to support as possible, and look for the quick bounce. So let's go ahead and watch this as we wait for LFIN to resume. So we got the resume right there. Boom. You got the washout right to support. Boom. You see me jump in there. 2,000 shares. Textbook washout play. Stock's already bouncing, already up huge. Right there, right back to highs. We got a high of day test right away. Try to sell it, only get a partial fill, but I eventually do get the fill. You guys get the idea here. Nice little 5-fig win eventually, you'll see. Did get a little bit nervous that's kind of teetering here, but once you see that bid, support there around the 60 area, I was fairly confident with this thing. As long as 60 bids kind of hold firm. Even if 60 gets taken out for a split second, but if they come back, you're probably fine. So again, textbook washout long play, halt resume washout long play. Now, one thing I do want to be wary of, as you see me sell here for a nice $13,000 profit, one thing you want to be wary of is obviously the halt situation. You want to take profits when you can. It's nothing worse than being up huge and not taking it, getting greedy, and getting stuck in a halt and then getting stuck in a huge gap down or something like that. So definitely be mindful of that. Just like in my DCAX halt resume washout long trade where I was up 20 grand, where I theoretically could have been up obviously $40,000. It's better to be safe. Than sorry. Take the $20,000, pocket it. Don't risk yourself getting stuck in a halt, because you did see in the DCAX video where it did ramp up in the morning when it ran from 15 to 23 or something like that. If you got stuck near the top of 23, the next halt and resume did halt all the way down to 18 or whatever it was. So you would have lost pretty big there if you tried to push a little bit harder. So a lot of people like to hold through these halts. It's a little bit risky, or in some cases really risky, because you never know what's going to happen. So you just got to be mindful of that. So for me personally, when I'm playing these stocks, I just take the quick entry on the panic, on the washout, and I take the quick sell on the pop. So as always, get in on the panic, get on in the panic. Don't regret anything if you sell too early. It's always better to be safe than sorry, just in case you get that doomsday scenario. So not too shabby there on that $13,000 profit. You'll see this stock does ramp up a ridiculous amount. So we're gonna fast forward through these halts just because it's just a waste of time if we stick around. But SIEB is now running as well. Pretty nice stock. Another runner today. Lots of stocks ran today. Lots of plays. Not sure if I make a trade in SIB here, but I did make a small trade in SIB at some point. The volume's not the best, but still worth a shot, I believe, on one of the washouts. It did give one at least decent washout. There's the resume. So unfortunately on ELFIN on this run up, I'm just gonna play it through. I didn't really get in much of it on this run up because it didn't really dip. Of course, as always, you never know what can happen to it. There was a little mini dip there where I guess you could have gotten in. But for the most part, this stock is up this much. Obviously, the risk is like a huge dump at any point in time. So you got to be mindful of that as well. Manage your risk. Only get in on the really nice moves. So be mindful of that. You do see a 70 stall here on the tape, so that probably was a good entry point for the next leg up to 80, 90, 100, and so on. So I could have taken that theoretically. Just didn't want to risk a chance that it might dump back down to 60 or something like that. But it did take off here really nicely. Just overall exercising a lot of caution with these trades as the stock goes higher. Obviously, as the stock goes higher, then the risk is inherently a lot higher. So we're getting this nice move up. I'm going to miss this part of the leg, unfortunately. But again, be mindful of the halts, you know. This stock was definitely a halt fest today. And I'm sure every single time somebody got stuck in a halt, it was a very nerve-wracking situation, even if the stock was moving in your favor. Because, again, it could gap down. So this thing is going to halt again right here. And we're going to fast forward through this. And the crazy part about the halt at the very top was that it was halted obviously for 50 minutes. And again, a lot of you guys that don't seem to understand the new halt rules, basically the gist of it is if the stock gets halted and it's set to resume outside the LUDP bands, it's going to get halted for another 5 to 10 minutes or something like that. So you might want to look up that information. There's a pamphlet that you can find on Google regarding the new halt rules from NASDAQ themselves. So they'll explain it to you very well, but the rule of thumb is basically, and there's my trade on SIEB. But the rule of thumb is basically the stock will stay halted if it's set to gap up or down more than 10% or something like that. So if it goes beyond where the boundaries of the halt rules are 10% in this case, then they'll halt it again for another 5-10 minutes or something like that. So as you can see here, the stock's going to halt again as it moved 10% again in a very short amount of time. But again, going back to the new halt rule, so basically they're just keeping it halted until it's gapping down, I guess, less than 10% with the new adjusted bands, LUDP bands. It's really hard to explain it. Just go ahead and read the pamphlet so you get a better idea of the new halt rules. Definitely be aware of it. Don't get stuck in a halt, guys. We've seen a couple of halts that already lasted for 45 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour plus. We had obviously a stock, can't think of the name, but it was AYRU or AYTU or something like that. On Friday, that halted for an hour and 20 minutes. So it's pretty ridiculous. I think LFIN today also halted for, over an hour, close to an hour and 20 minutes as well. So, and it ended up gapping down like 60% or something like that. So, don't get stuck in that, guys. It's a terrible situation. If you bought LFIN at the top, as you'll see in this video, definitely it was not a good feeling, and the end result was not great either. So, as you can see now, the stock is moving toward 100. No red candles. That's insane. No red candles in between. It's getting really, really scary to buy at this point. I'm just waiting for a big drop because it's coming. Another halt. Literally every single time the stock moves up, it halts. It's too easy for the stock to move up 10% with this much momentum. And, again, I don't really disagree with the way the halt system works. And they always claim it's there to protect investors or whatever. But I really don't believe that it's really helpful for traders to be put in a situation where they're completely hapless, stuck in a stock, potentially be stuck at the top and getting a huge gap down, or if you're shorting any huge gap up. I really don't see that. Obviously, I don't think anyone would, lots of traders out there would agree with me with that. But, well, what can you do? But just understand the rules. The rules are the rules, no matter whether you like it or not. So you just got to protect yourself. So basically, that's why I'm not jumping in right now, because this thing is basically a halt fest. It resumes, runs up, triggers another circuit breaker, and so on. Very high chance that you might get stuck in a halt, and you're pretty much at the mercy of the market. So just be very, very, very mindful of that. But at least for the most part, the halts here are lasting 5 minutes, which is the standard halt resume times. But the eventual halt at the very top was pretty brutal. But we do see the stock here again getting halted one more time. Look at that chart. Now you got 8 straight green candles on the 3-minute chart. We're talking about 24 minutes of straight parabolic uptrend and no dip. So at this point, I'm just waiting for that dump. There's going to be a washout, a huge washout. Look at that air pocket. We're looking at a stock that can probably drop from here, even from here, all the way down to 70, 75, 80, 80. It's very possible, 80, 75, 60, and you got VWAP all the way down there as well. So there's a huge air pocket where this thing can essentially drop. So it's becoming increasingly very, very dangerous for anyone who is just chasing it up here. And overall, it's best to just sit on your hands. If you can't get an entry, there's really no reason for you to risk. You don't know where the top is. There's no reason for you to just jump in at any point in time and risk getting caught in something. So in this situation, I'm just waiting still. I haven't made a trade since that last halt washout long. I pretty much missed this whole entire move, but at the end of the day, I'm still banking, so it doesn't really matter. I'm not putting myself at risk. Now we're going to get our final halt here. It's going to come up. Here we go. This is our final halt, and I went ahead and skipped this because obviously you don't want to watch the halts for an hour and 20 minutes, but we're going to go ahead and fast forward it, I believe, right there. Now watch this. We're going to pause this video right here, okay? So at this point, 50 minutes has passed, and I'm looking to see this thing drop like a rock because the stock's halted for 50 minutes. That means it's failed to resume within the LUDP band criteria. So basically, it's gapping down 10%, 10%, 10% every single time until it's no longer gapping down 10%. So this thing is probably going to gap down probably like $50, $60 or something like that, okay? So I'm looking for this thing to drop down to, 80 at least, 75, 70, or, even 60. And you'll see where it eventually drops. And it was definitely worth the entry because you have support right there and VWAP supporting it. So it's basically a risk-reward kind of thing. And you'll see where it pretty much ends up dropping. And this is pretty brutal if you were along at the top. Again, going back to why I never recommend chasing, especially without a dip. So here we go. Boom. Are you kidding me? This thing is gapped down all the way down to 55, 56. You see me jump in there. I get my fill. I'm already up huge. Let's go ahead and watch that again. That was insane. So basically, this is what happened. You got the top here and the halt. Again, we did fast forward this footage. We're talking about 50 minutes past the halt. Boom, okay? You got the huge gap down. You got massive bounce potential. It's pretty much right at VWAP. I go in with 4,000 shares right here because I'm very, very confident that this thing is going to bounce because it's dropped so big. There's so many shorts stuck. It's right at VWAP. It's right at support. It's pretty much right at where, very close to where I bought my first washout long, halt, resume, washout long the first time. So you got support right there. The stock's tested that level in the past. And on top of that, you got the VWAP. Now, I get stuck in the halt here. Now, I'm not freaking out as much because, obviously, not much volume has traded here. It's probably going to gap up a little bit, or actually a lot, and I'll probably sell into the next halt because after a certain point, it becomes too risky. I don't want to be stuck in multiple halts. So in this particular case, it gaps down huge. We're talking about almost 150 down to 50 something, right? Stock's pretty much gapping down 90 something dollars. And at this point, it's capped down so much, and you got so much of an air pocket now going the other way for the bounce. It's worth holding it for a little bit. Now, some people might say like, you can hold it you sell half or whatever, but I just don't want to deal with this situation. If I'm holding 1,000 shares and this ends up getting halted or something like that and gaps down, 70% or something like that, that's terrible. So I'm gonna lock my profits here on the next halt resume, and you'll see me sell it for a very ridiculous amount of money. It's actually my biggest trade of all time, eclipsing my FMMA trade, which I made, I believe, around 40-something thousand on it as well, but it definitely was not 45,000. And also my Twitter trade from a couple years ago where I got lucky where I was shorting it before earnings and it gapped down and ended up making like $43,000 as well. So this is actually my biggest trade ever, and this is also actually my biggest day ever, of course. And this is going to be an epic trade here. You'll see right here when the gap's up and runs towards 70. And again, I do believe this stock at this point will probably run to 80 at least. With that line drawn right there, and eventually does even run more than that. But the risk is just too high. You can make an argument that I should have held a couple shares, which maybe I'll do in the future. But again, I just don't want to be stuck in that situation where it might be a potential very stressful situation. So you'll see basically the shorts covering very aggressively into this gap down. I mean, you gotta believe if you're a short and you get bailed out with a $90 gap down, you're gonna take it. So here we go. We got the resume. Look at that, selling it. Don't get quite the fill just yet, but I'm already up a ridiculous amount. It looks like it's going to halt, and I get rid of it. Don't want to get it stuck in the second halt. Boom. $45,000 in profits, guys. The combined duration of these two trades was probably, like 10 minutes or something like that. Ridiculous amount of money for a very short-term exposure. A lot of people will probably argue that you push size, but, I mean, come on. Look at that size of that drop. There's no reason why, you shouldn't at least take a stab at it. And look at that drop. It's definitely worth a try. Even if I end up losing, taking a big hit, it's worth the risk there, in my opinion, because of the bounce potential. This thing definitely could have bounced even more. It did bounce more, obviously, but the probability of the bounce was very high given the size and the magnitude of that drop, all the way down to support and VWAP, and actually past several other levels that I thought it was going to drop to. So, an epic trade, guys. ELFIN, a stock for the ages, a day for the ages. As you guys saw, I actually ended up the day of $75,000 in just one day, guys. And that's with skipping like the last hour and a half or 2 hours of the day. So, a ridiculous amount of money. Best day ever. Best trade ever. Probably should buy a car and get the license plate ELFIN or something like that. But overall, two great examples of halt resume washout longs. This is probably the biggest, craziest halt washout long I've ever seen. I've never seen a gap down of this magnitude on a halt resume. It was definitely something that we might not see for a while. So hope this market keeps giving, guys. A lot of opportunities with the Bitcoin craze in full force. We gotta take advantage of this, guys. Thanks for watching. See you guys soon.